Hi, I'm your host Vasco Duarte. Welcome to the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast, where we share tips and tricks from Scrum Masters around the world. Every day, we bring you inspiring answers to important questions that all Scrum Masters face day after day. Hello everybody, welcome to our Success Thursday, take 2. You didn't hear it, but we just had a mistake. That was my mistake. And we have with us this week Kyla MacDonald. Hi Kyla, welcome back.
Hi, thanks for having me back.
Absolutely. And second time on Thursday. And on Thursdays, we start with your favorite retrospective format and why.
So I have two things here. The first is less a format, but just one of the things that I like to introduce, and it's something my personal agility coach shared with me, and we call it the 3 V's. We start off by measuring value, velocity, and vitality. So we'll ask everyone in the team to share on a scale of 1 to 5, where 1 is low and 5 is high. How much value do you feel we delivered in this sprint? And then we move on to velocity, and it's not your typical velocity. It's more, the way I use it anyway, is more how much progress or momentum did we make? Again, on a scale of 1 to 5. And the third V is vitality. So how much did we love coming into work? How much did we enjoy being part of this team? So, we get a picture then of, first of all, where all the team members are sitting across this, but also overall, where's the balance? And one of the teams that I worked with in the past were always delivering value, and the velocity was always high, but they hated it. They were coming in, they were working 14-hour days, and it gave them an opportunity to show that, to put that on paper, and talk about that really openly. So that's one I really love. One of the teams that I worked with previously who used this, they decided to add a 4th V as well, which is vulnerability. And that was around, how much risk have we introduced? That was quite a risk-focused area. So I love seeing how teams kind of adapt it and also how they use it. I facilitated a retro last week, and we did this, and it was really interesting to see the conversations, but also that was the one thing out of the whole session that people it really strongly resonated for them, and loved the conversations that it generated.
Absolutely. And it is all about that, right? It's about generating the environment where people can really bring up what is relevant for them at that time based on, what just happened during that sprint.
Yeah. And it's kind of interesting to see how things change, If we all know that sometimes the work we do, we feel is more valuable, and it doesn't necessarily always seem that way. So it's kind of a case of, hey, we had sort of 3 sprints in a row where all, vitality is high. Everyone's having fun or loving work, but we're not doing anything. Do we want to do something about this? Maybe we want to focus on actually getting some momentum going. That kind of thing. Those things are really useful conversations to have.
Also highlights the fact that the work we do has many dimensions, and it's not just how many stories did we deliver.
Yeah, absolutely. And so the one team that I mentioned who was working, 14-hour days, interestingly for them, we introduced this concept. It is for the team. You do with it what you wish. It's not for anyone else. But they wanted to use this as a way to show some of their leaders, hey, you think that all is going well in this team. It's not. And we can show you don't see a problem because we're delivering. But actually, vitality being so low, everyone working these crazy hours, we're going to lose people. And the wheels are starting to fall off, that sort of thing. So it can be helpful if team wishes to use it to demonstrate to other people where there are problems or where there aren't problems.
Absolutely. That's a great tip, actually.
Yeah.
So, Kyla, now we turn our attention to the reason why we ask these questions and have these conversations, of course, which is to try to reach a successful outcome for our work. So share with us, Kyla, what's your definition of success for a Scrum Master?
One of the teams that I worked with previously, a team of coaches, would use, we used a phrase, and that is that we exist to help teams or support teams to deliver more value, more frequently, with more ease and more delight. And we had a few things underneath each of those. So, what does value mean? And, and we would say, okay, this is tied to company objectives and tied to shorter term goals. And we're all clear on that. And we would kind of measure those on a scale. And so for each of those, how many were there? Four things: value, frequency, ease, and delight. And use those as tools to kind of measure progress, if you like, or improvement. The interesting thing is that the baseline changes, and that's kind of what we want. If you're measuring something on a scale of 1 to 5 or red, amber, green, I don't think the goal is to get to 5 and stay at 5, or to get to green and stay at green. It's if you're consistently reaching the top level of whatever assessment you're doing, the goal is to kind of push it so that you what can we do to move ourselves into amber again, so that we know we're kind of growing and we're pushing that baseline up. As an example, I was talking with a Scrum Master yesterday who mentioned the team she's working with over 18 months or 2 years, who used to do a release to production every 12 to 18 months. And now they've got into a delivery mode where they're delivering every week or fortnight. And so in that case, if they looked back 2 years ago, their scale would be quite different. Their scale of frequency would be quite different. What's something attainable? They wouldn't be looking at weekly or 6-minutely, and now they could. So if you're delivering to production every 18 months, well, okay, how about trying to make it monthly? And when you get to the point that you're doing it monthly, let's change that scale and try to do it weekly.
Yeah, absolutely. That reminds me of the idea of the fact that the team's challenges change with everything they do. And for example, if a team is able to deliver every month instead of every 18 months, how can they help the business in a different way? Now, it could be to deliver more frequently, as you just said. It could be something else. But if we got to that point, the Scrum Master's role is not to tell the team, hey, great job, guys, let's, sit and enjoy. Is, hey, great job, guys, let's sit and enjoy for a moment. Yeah. And then let's think about what's next.
Yep, absolutely.
And that's not necessarily an easy role to play, because obviously at some point everyone needs a rest, and we need to be able to recognize that. But as Scrum Masters, our goal should not be to help the teams get to a point where they rest. Our goal should be to help the teams get to a point where they are rested enough to continue moving forward.
Yep. It's funny as well, because sometimes a team doesn't recognize that there are ways to improve. And even in that resting period, it's almost like, okay, well, if you're perfect, right? We know nobody's ever perfect, but if we're in a position where right now we're pretty happy, what can we do to help other teams? What can we share with the rest of the organization? Where can we, like you say, if it's not going to be more frequent releases, what else can we do? What are we doing that's really cool, that's helping us, that we want to put out the invitation for other people to learn about? Again, other teams don't necessarily want to be told what to do, but what I've seen is, people love to hear what's going on in other teams and what they can pull on. So it's kind of a case of let's make that transparent and share with other people.
Yeah, absolutely. Always set the or paint a picture of where we could go, and then of course do it as an invitation. Obviously, don't push people to do things that they are not ready to do, but when they are ready, be ready to help.
Yeah. I also have a few other things. So that's kind of the a definition of success. But I also have my own little kind of scorecard that I keep for myself. And there are things like what's the behavior of people like at retros? I can't remember what it's called, but the prisoner, explorer, shopper, tourist exercise where you ask participants to say, hey, where are you? Are you here because you have to be here, or you feel like you have to be here? Or are you here because you just want to eat everything up and take all of the ideas? And so understanding or asking the question, like, who is a prisoner here? Are people here because they want to be here, or is this they think it's a waste of time and they just are afraid they're going to get in trouble if they don't come? How much positive conflict is in the team? One of the things I think is underrated is disagreement. And I don't mean big fights, but we need to pull in different perspectives. And if I don't see people sharing different opinions or disagreeing with each other now and then, that's a red flag. I also watch that. The balance of talking across the team, do we have one person who's dominating it, or do we have a pretty good balance of who and how people are sharing? And again, using different techniques to pull those voices, because of course we know not everyone is a talker, and it's a little bit hard, or a new challenge now that we're all doing a lot of our calls over Zoom is how do we make openings for people to share those voices? So you don't have to talk, but let's get your opinion across either on a sticky note in Miro or something in the chat. Another thing I look at is the number of times that leaders, so senior leaders, come to reviews or events, and that's a flag, right? You want engagement across outside of the team, and in a supportive way. So that's something I note as a measure of success, right? People working overtime. We kind of talked about that in a previous episode, but also how quickly people respond to surveys. One of the things that sometimes we look at are those employee engagement surveys, and it's like, you haven't responded. Everybody needs to respond. But the fact that nobody's responding, that's an indication in itself, and it might be indicative of disengagement or people not believing that anything is going to happen. So why bother? So that's another thing that I've sometimes have looked at is okay, if people aren't responding, why aren't they responding, or how long is it taking them, and what does that tell us? So there are a whole lot of little things that I look at on my own scorecard for areas for me to kind of improve my focus.
Absolutely, and a great idea to have that scorecard. Thank you for sharing that, Kyla.
Thank you.
Part of a successful Scrum Master job is to help the product owner. Tomorrow we explore that critical role in Scrum, the product owner role. Tune in to learn about product owner anti-patterns, what you can do to help the product owner, and a real-life example of what a great product owner is and what made it so. Tomorrow on our Friday Product Owner episode. See you tomorrow. We really hope you liked our show. And if you did, why not rate this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes? Share this podcast and let other Scrum Masters know about this valuable resource for their work. Remember that sharing is caring.